16th century, his depiction of the afterlife is surprisingly familiar.
People who are either actually near to death or think they're near to death often report. It involves things like an out-of-body experience, the sensation of moving down a tunnel towards a bright light and perhaps meeting with a being of light.
On the other side of the world, Tibet, where Buddhist beliefs have remained unchanged for centuries. Written over 1200 years ago, the Tibetan Book of the Dead describes the journey into the afterlife. A gleaming bright light will shine white from the heart of God, with such power that you hardly dare to look into it, and still won't be able to steer your eyes away from it. From ancient Tibet through 16th century Europe to the present day, the light at the end of the tunnel seems to be a universal symbol for life after death. Does science have a way to explain this?
Now, what happens if you are...
In 1976, Robert Barcher from Germany was 10 years old when he had a terrifying accident. The results have haunted him ever since. He thinks it gave him a glimpse not only of life after death, but also his own particular future.
Mit jemandem zu teilen war für mich schon deswegen schwierig, weil es so schwer.
It was very difficult to share this experience with others because it was so hard to put into words. I still find it hard to describe because there aren't any words to express such a complex experience.
On the 24th of April, Robert and his brother Bruno were playing around in their parents' bathroom.
I was in the bath and my brother was getting ready by the sink. He grabbed the hairdryer.
Samstags kam damals Ilja Richter mit Disco.
Back then on Saturdays, there was a pop program on television, and Rod Stewart had been on singing I Am Sailing. He was huge at the time, and there were fans blowing wind over the stars that were singing. So I was holding the hairdryer in my face and singing and pretending to be a pop star.
As he danced around, the cable on the hairdryer pulled tight, pulling the hairdryer right out of his hand, and it fell straight into the bath.
It just shook him. His body stretched and sank under the water. I heard his head bang on the bottom of the bath. He kept shaking. He wasn't in charge of any of his movements anymore.
Schüttelte aber weiter in der Wanne. War nicht mehr Herr seiner Bewegung.
Meine einzige Wahl ist loslassen.
My only choice was to let go. And once I did this, I suddenly felt completely relaxed. My mind and body started feeling completely detached.
A
very bright light. I was flooded in light. I felt so comfortable. I didn't want to leave. And I asked for a reason why I should go back. Why do I have to go back there? Then this being, this thing, became very forceful and told me, showed me, that I still had a task to do. That I can't come now.
As a teenager, and still today, Robert is convinced that his near-death experience showed him his future wife and family.
You could say that a vision of a dark-haired woman and 2 children is something that everyone will see at some point in their lives. But this vision went much further than that. It's hard to explain, but in this vision I experienced the same emotions, the same inner feelings that I was to experience later.
But the emotions Robert experienced could have a purely physical explanation. Endorphins. Stored in the brain, these act as neurotransmitters regulating feelings of pleasure. Studies show that in the extreme stress of an accident, the brain fights terror with a strong blast of endorphins. Whatever the cause, Robert longed to regain that lost feeling of peace. It haunted his mind and became the focus of his life. He wanted to share what he felt was a wonderful experience, but he had to keep it a secret, fearing that no one else would understand.
Als Jugendlicher war ich natürlich völlig überfordert damit.
As a teenager, I was obviously totally overwhelmed by it. And I was worried that if I told people, they would think I'd gone mad.
But the memories became too powerful to ignore. He started to test himself, taking up dangerous sports where death is a real risk. What he wanted was to find again that feeling of freedom from his childhood encounter with death.
Ich hatte mir schon die Frage gestellt, ob es das noch ist, was ich wirklich möchte.
I asked myself, are you sure you want to give all this up? The experience then came up in me very strongly, and I thought, yes, I want to find out for myself what this means.
Um zu wissen, was war da jetzt dran.
American child psychologist PMH Atwater specializes in children who've had these encounters. It always changes them.
After their experience is over, children invariably are more mature. They become much more adult-like. It's almost as if like they grow up.
Sometimes art can provide much-needed therapy. This painting by a Dutch woman recalls her childhood brush with death. It expresses the intense emotions of her experience.
For a child, they will many times blame themselves for the experience ending. They'll think, well, I was a bad child, or what did I do wrong? Did I say something wrong? Why did all the people go away? Why did all the light beings go away? Where are the bright ones? Did I do something wrong?
Atwater's long-term studies have shown that a high number of the children questioned were prone to drink or drug addiction later in life. A high proportion attempted suicide. Their experience has been too disturbing for them.
The number one complaint that the children made was, I lost my childhood.
She thinks it's difficult for them to stay on Earth once they've looked into the eyes of death. Nadia McCaffrey was one such child. When she was 7, her life changed forever. Out playing, she was stung by a poisonous snake.
I felt this enormous pain on my left ankle. And I stopped, of course, froze, and I knew immediately what that meant. I knew immediately that I was facing death.
For 10 days, she struggled for life. Finally, the doctors gave up hope.
What happened was I left my body. Look at it, I was not interested by that at all. All I could see was this beautiful light. This beautiful, powerful light, so full of love.
She says she met a heavenly creature made of light who spoke to her.
She was very, very clear on saying, you will not die, but I have to leave now. You cannot come with me. And you have a lot of things to do. You have to go back to life.
Against the odds, Nadia survived, but she was changed. She no longer felt like a child and says she suddenly developed uncanny powers.
I could hear some people's thoughts. I could feel people's pain. I could hear their sorrow. It was a torture. But I couldn't talk to anybody about it. And the only person really I trusted to talk to this experience was my grandmother. And when I told her, when I explained what happened to me, she looked at me and she very seriously said, don't you ever talk to anybody about this. They would think that you're crazy and, you would be put away, you would be locked up.
Nadia McCaffrey shut herself off from the world. Life on Earth was not enough. She longed to return to the heavenly creature bathed in light. At 17, she decided to